How can we unlock the resilience to face setbacks and adversity? That's the topic we're going to be discussing today on Flourish-Meant. I'm your host, Tina Yeager. And today I have a wonderful guest. I'm so delighted to meet her. Her heart is really dedicated to helping people have the resilience needed in the crisis that we're facing with suicidality and mental health issues. Kristen Christy is our guest today, and she's a sought-after international speaker, author, and resilience expert. And she had experience of her own that I'll let her share with you. She also is the co-creator of the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. She's a passionate advocate for mental health awareness and suicide prevention. Welcome, Kristen. I am so honored to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Tina. It's my honor. Thanks for the opportunity.
So, could you please share with the audience that beautiful and heart-gripping testimony that you had of going through horrible, unthinkable, heartbreaking crises to becoming an advocate for those who are facing the hardest times in their lives?
Yeah, I say life is an emotional battlefield, and we don't know what our battle buddies next to us are going through at any one time. We are very good at hiding all of that. And so, really, I talk about the tests that I've gone through in life and the lessons that I've learned. I grew up in the Air Force. We moved every 2 years all over the world. And despite all of that, I was a world-class athlete. And at 15 years old, after playing and planning on going on the pro tennis circuit after college and winning the golf championship for all the American high schools in Germany. I experienced a massive stroke just 9 days before my 16th birthday. And it took me a year and a half to learn to walk again. I had brain surgery, completely paralyzed on my right side. And I really, truly felt like I lost my identity. The lessons that I learned during that time is one, my identity is not based on what I do, it's on who I am, my character. Second was my faith played a huge foundation in my recovery. And third, the superpower of community that was needed to get through that adversity. And it took a while. I write with my left hand now because my right hand doesn't work very well. And I will say that this silver lining I have in my hair came after brain surgery when they shaved my head. And it is a daily reminder that there is a silver lining. And sometimes we have to look pretty deep for it. But the lessons I learned during that time at 15 years old helped me decades later. It was no surprise that I married someone in the Air Force, considering I grew up in that world. And in 2004, he was deployed to Iraq and he came back and he was different. Our marriage was broken. We had two boys, and Don was very reserved when he came back, even with the children. And in 2008, he ended up taking his life 3 days before he pinned on colonel in the Air Force. And I talk about the aftermath. Yeah, I remember every single person who was in my living room and my kitchen that night. I made one phone call, and it was our superpower of community that came alongside of us to get us through. And it took a while. Our children were 14 and 12 at the time. Ryan, my 14-year-old, has been missing now for over 8.5 years. He's 30 years old. We have no idea where he is. He was diagnosed with bipolar soon after Don's suicide. And my youngest son, Ben, attempted suicide as well, as research indicates that those who have lost a loved one by suicide are more likely to attempt. He's doing very well now, I will say, Tina. He's 28 and at Edwards Air Force Base in California, working for the government there. But it's been hard. It's ebbed and flowed. There's still hope that Ryan is out there and he's doing well. I I hope, I do have hope, which is not a noun, it's a verb, it's action taking, but that he's out there and maybe he'll call home. But there's always hope. So, because of those adversities, and I don't want your listeners and your audience to compare their adversities to my adversities. We've all experienced a 10 out of 10 on the pain scale, whether it's suicide or health or whatever that emotional battlefield comes along. But we have an understanding of what a 10 out of 10 on the pain scale is like, which is so important to be part of a community. And so through that mess, I have a message about the aftermath. If people think that they are a burden to their family and to their community, it is up to us in their family and their community to let them know they are not a burden. Because guess what? Life is not better without them. Ever.
That is such a powerful message in and of itself. Life is not better without you. I think that's the biggest lie that suicide speaks to us, is the worthlessness of our life, and that we are a burden to others rather than a potential place of blessing, a very needed and critical piece that God created for a reason. So can you speak to that person who knows someone, or who may be themselves someone who is facing that moment of crisis where they wonder if it would be easier to just check out?
Yeah. Um, I think we all go through dark times, whether we have thought about suicide or not. But I think the most important part, there are three parts to it, is feel the feelings that you're feeling. It's okay. Um, and and part of resilience is bouncing back. That's not the entire part, but once you feel the feelings, cry, be angry, go through the whole grief process, whether it's a lost loved one or a lost relationship, or a loss of identity, whatever that grief looks like, go through those feelings, bounce back. I think of when I was a kid, we had Bozo the clown that we would blow up, and he had sand in the bottom, and we would punch him and he would bounce back. Bouncing back is important, but not staying there very long is also important, because when you bounce back, you're in the same spot, just like Bozo the clown was. But then you march forth. You march forward, you get out of that space, and I find that to get out of that space, get into someone else's space, help someone else out. I talk in acronyms as a military spouse, and HOPE stands for Hold On Pain Eases. The E doesn't stand for end. It eases, it ebbs and flows. And it also stands for help one person every day. When you need to get outside of your own circumstances, help someone else, because you're helping their pain ease and you're helping your own pain ease. So that's the three things that I think about in resilience and getting out of that dark place. And most importantly, all three of those, do not do them alone. We are not made to do life alone.
That is so true. I know that people who are in that space of crisis would have a hard time with imagining they could bounce back. I think our fear is that once we experience pain, it will always be pain and we won't be able to endure it. There's such a focus in our common current culture, our modern culture right now, that gets us to want to have comfort. To have to be uncomfortable is something that we're so averse to in our society today. We don't know how to endure pain and discomfort at all. So the easiest thing to do is avoid the discomfort and end life. And that is kind of where a lot of people go in their minds. Well, I can't endure this pain. I can't endure this pain. What would you say to that person who believes they cannot endure pain?
Yep. Do life with somebody. There is someone, I encourage everyone to find that cheerleader in their life, whether it's a spouse or a family member or a friend that you know that you can call with good news, and they're going to celebrate with you just as if it was happening to them. And more importantly, you can call them when bad things happen, when pain happens, when that despair is blinding the world for you and your life. And they're that trusted agent to just sit there, kind of in that despair with you. And so you aren't alone. It's hard. It takes courage to ask for help. I think more importantly, as a community, we need to use our intuition and know when someone is off, when someone is not on the top of their game, when something is going on. Maybe they're a Tigger and they have Eeyore days. We all do, but those Eeyore days are extended. And see those signs. And it's okay not to have the perfect words. You show up, you're intentional, and you do something, not say something. I'll talk about two experiences I had.
Well, I can't wait to get into the experiences that you had with what people should and shouldn't say in response to someone in crisis, and how you show up instead of trying to say something to stop the pain in those situations. But for now, I do want you to tell everybody how they can stay connected with you and learn more about the 988 Suicide Prevention Hotline.
Yeah, thank you for that opportunity. My website is kristenchristycares.com. You can Google it, put it in there, any kind of spelling you want to, and it should show up. I do have a white streak in my hair. There are other Kristen Christys out there, believe it or not, but you can find me on my website. Also, I give out my Google number to anyone who just needs some resources. My number is 620-304-HOPE 4673.
That's wonderful. You are so generous with your time and your heart. And I can't wait to get into the second half of our conversation. I'm so glad that you came on the show. I know that all of you listening feel as though you could just take a big hug from Kristen Christy right now, and you will be wanting to get in touch with her for support, to learn more about how you can support others. And of course, I also hope that you will hit subscribe and come back for the next episode of Flourishment.